Hello everyone, welcome back to another Tuesday Talk with Hannah. I'm Hannah Levin from Heartfelt Wellbeing, and we look at lots of different aspects of living in our modern lives through the lens of Ayurveda, with some curiosity about what's happening from modern medical science as well, although my background is not in Western medicine, it's in Ayurveda. So today we're going to talk about allergies because, hey, it's autumn. We're filming this in mid-October, and allergies are something that come up quite a bit for folks this time of year. And in our Western model, we just say, oh, you have allergies, and we have kind of standard treatments for those things. And I'm going to be sharing today some of what comes up on Google about allergies, and then also some ways to treat allergies from an Ayurvedic perspective, which is also understanding the dosha behind the type of allergies that you have. So allergies aren't just all lumped together. So we'll see what we can get to in our time together today. And first of all, I just want to put out there that, you know, allergies are something that we say we inherit, like we, you know, like my father actually used to take shots for hay fever. So like I grew up being like very aware of when ragweed season was, and that I think that also influences us, you know. So one of the things that is said in Western medicine is that heredity affects your allergies, and while that can be true, it doesn't mean that it's your fate. Okay, so I just want to put that out there, and I also want to share from the get-go that I used to be on crazy amounts of allergy medications. So starting when I was in high school, I had really bad allergies. Part of that was that there was an undetected mold issue in the bedroom that I lived in growing up, and that I then developed seasonal allergies and would be very, very sick, which then led to chronic sinus infections, which led to me taking antibiotics, which led to gut disruption, which led to all sorts of health issues. So I've had a tremendous journey with allergies myself. And like when I was in college, I was on Allegra, Allegra D, Flonase, Zyrtec, like all the things. And when I would have allergy attacks, is what I would call them, I would be incapacitated. Like I would just be laid out. I couldn't think straight. I had no appetite. I felt like my head was going to explode. It was really, really unpleasant, and I would just feel like really stuck and frustrated. So I also want to say fast forward a couple decades, and I no longer have allergies. I no longer take allergy medication. I no longer struggle with that, and it's incredible to me. And I'm going to hopefully remember to reiterate this again later when I touch on some of the information that's out there, that allergies can be healed. And if you are struggling with allergies at this point in your life, I hope that you'll have some good takeaways from this session today that you can start to apply in your life and see a real difference. So from the internet, I'm going to read you what the definition of an allergy is. So this is from Google. What comes up as the definition of an allergy. So it says, allergy occurs when a person reacts to a substance in the environment, or substances in the environment that are harmless to most people. These substances are known as allergens and are found in things like dust mites, pets, pollens, insects, molds, foods, and some medications. So what I want to point out there is that in the definition is that a person reacts to something in the environment that is harmless to most people. So harmless to most people means that there's some sort of reaction that happens in the people that have allergies, right? That the body is recognizing something as an intruder that needs treating. So here's another little, so when you Google things and then there's like all these questions that come up and you can just get a quick answer. So here's what is the cause of allergies. Allergies occur when your immune system reacts to a foreign substance such as a pollen, bee venom, or pet dander, or a food that doesn't cause a reaction in most people. Your immune system produces substances known as antibodies. So when we have something come into the body, and this time of year, it's a lot of pollens. So it's like ragweed and spores of mushrooms and things that are in the environment, in the decay and in the spread of seeds that is happening in the autumn that we react to. It could also be mold. It could also be food, right? And so how that shows up in the body is through an overproduction of antibodies. Something is recognized as an intruder and the immune system kicks on and says, hey, we got to fight this and get it out of here, when it's not actually something worth fighting. It's kind of like how we say in relationships, we want to pick our battles, right? Choose your battles. So when we have an immune system that is in an allergy response, it's not wisely choosing its battles. It's just, picking fights wherever a fight shows up, or participating in the fight wherever anybody picks one, right? And so we want to really look at what needs to happen for the system to not go into that fighting mode of increasing antibodies and telling the whole physiology that like something's out of whack because an intruder has come in that has been identified, that might be a pollen or a dust or a mold or something like that. So from the Western perspective, what we do is we say, okay, there's allergies, and then we give we first say, if you can, remove the allergen, right? So if you can get away from the things. So one little anecdote here is when I was I think I was 21, and I was still really sick all the time with allergies. And I had a Western allergy test where they do pricks on your back with all sorts of allergens. And I apparently had lots of welts from those pricks. And the doctor came in and said, I really hate to tell you this, but you cannot live in Western North Carolina anymore. That's where I grew up and lived. I went to college in Ohio, but I lived in Western North Carolina for most of my life. And he said, you need to move out west where it's dry. And I was like, oh no. So here I was, 21 years old, being told that I couldn't live where I lived, where my family was, where I loved to live, and that I needed to move. Now, what's interesting about that is that the solution was to change the environment, not change the inner terrain of my ecosystem, which we'll get to in a moment. And so that's one option. Another option is to take medicines, either over the counter or prescription medications that mask the symptoms, basically. So an antihistamine, or what are some other things that are given? I pulled up here. Oral antihistamines, corticosteroid nasal sprays, oral decongestants, right? All of these things are given. And then if you need like an EpiPen, to have that, right? So that you have that handy and wearing a mask too. So that's, again, separating you from the allergens. So those things can be really helpful. What I would like to focus on, since a lot of us don't want to or can't necessarily up and move to another state or region or country necessarily for allergies, is to look at what we can do to change what is happening inside us, the reaction that pops up, so that we don't have the allergy response. So one last thing I want to share from Google. So the factors, it says, what are the risk factors for allergies? Risk for allergies include heredity, sex, race, and age. Heredity being by far the most important. So remember, I just touched on that, like that we might say, oh, like I could say my dad has allergies, so of course I have allergies. And also exposure to allergens like secondhand smoke, things like that can create allergies. And then the question is, do allergies go away or can they be cured? And Google says allergies cannot be cured. Allergies cannot be cured, but you can treat them and control the symptoms. So that's what's being put out into our mass culture, is that if you have allergies, and I meet people all the time that say, oh yeah, I have allergies and my doctor says, the only thing I can do is take allergy shots or whatever, and that's it. And I really, really want to encourage anybody who's open to imagining that there is a different conversation to be had, to enter that different conversation, which is that when we recognize that our physiology can be changed, and epigenetics is part of that how we live ends up influencing the gene expression in our bodies and minds, that we can change how things go with our health. And I'm living proof of that. Like I said, I used to be on lots of allergy medicines. I was told I couldn't live in the Southeast United States, and here I am. I'm healthy, no allergies, and that doctor is wrong. Like, I have proven that wrong. And lots of people have. I'm not unique. But you have to be a believer that how you are, right, what your physiology is capable of can change, and do the work. So I couldn't have kept living the way I was living and have these results. I had to change my diet, I had to change my lifestyle, I had to take some herbs, right? And now my body has been re-educated, basically. So what are some things that we can do for allergies? And so let's dive into the Ayurvedic perspective on allergies. So from an Ayurvedic perspective, nobody's going to be surprised. There are 3 categories of allergies, or allergic responses, we could say. There's 3 categories of allergic responses. And those are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So the 3 doshas, or 3 energies. Now, Vata, just as a review, or maybe an introduction if you're not familiar with these, Vata is made up of air and space. It's dry and cold and rough. So the allergy symptoms that we would experience with Vata type of allergies would be dryness. So dry eyes, dry throat, and that will carry over also into the digestive tract. So a lack of mucus, okay, would be Vata. Pitta is made up of fire and water. So allergy responses from Pitta would be things like eyes that are just constantly tearing up. It would, and red. So any sort of red, fiery heat. This would be things like headaches and itchy eyes, and itchy skin, and feeling irritable. So this is more of a pitta allergy response. And then kapha is made up of earth and water. So the allergy response from kapha is more mucus. So that would be congestion, thick mucus, sinus headaches where it just like lands around your eyes, and feeling really lethargic, and a thick white coating on your tongue. So this is like the response of accumulation. Now, what's interesting is that we may tend to have one of these allergy responses, or we might have two or possibly all three. And they don't necessarily correspond to your constitution, but how this imbalance of allergies shows up. So, for instance, real life example, I am Vata predominant, but the ways that allergies showed up and manifested in my body were very kapha. Lots of mucus, lots of congestion, lots of stagnation. And so the interesting thing is that we can then take that information and say what is needed here to treat those allergies, not necessarily just the constitution of the person, right? So let's look at each of these, and keeping in mind that you may have multiple doshas at play in your allergy experience too. And so it's not just like you fall into one category, but you might see that you fall into primarily one. Okay, so let's go back to Vata. So Vata's issues are dryness. So Vata allergies are going to be aggravated by dry climates. So things like living out west where it's very dry. High altitude is going to aggravate that. Windy situations where there's a lot of movement of air is going to aggravate. So this can show up, as I mentioned before, dry sinuses, dry skin, dry mucosal membranes, very little lubrication in the nose and the eyes and the ears. So this might show up as, you feel like you need eye drops every 20 minutes, or, your nose and ears just feel really itchy. Your throat might feel itchy. And you might even be experiencing constipation because of the dryness in the system. Now, just a reminder that from an Ayurvedic perspective, everything comes back to the gut. Everything comes back to the gut. So we'll look at that too further down the road. So in general, what we want to look at for treating Vata allergies is lubricating. So we want to think about, like, maybe you're more like the Tin Man, right? Like things just maybe you feel like creaky and achy in your joints, or like your body just can't move. So this is where we want to bring in lubrication. So oils on your skin, so oiling your body at least daily. Putting oil in your nose, so putting a little drop of oil on your pinkies and putting oil up your nose and also in your ears. You can also lay back on a bed and put drops of oil in each nostril and let that come back further, and you can massage into your sinuses and really get that oil lubrication going on in there if dryness is the issue. So that's the general treatment for Vata, and I have a couple references that I'm looking down at here. In general, Vata will do well with having some additional beneficial fat in the diet too, and supporting the digestion with easy to digest foods. So we're in Vata season right now. Some of you just finished doing the detox with me. This is what we were doing with food in the detox, was making it so incredibly easy to digest and nourishing. So you might add a little more ghee to each of your meals and be able to have more of that inner lubrication going on as well. So Another thing that you can do if you have like extreme wheezing conditions, like dryness in the respiratory tract, is to make 1 cup of either ginger or licorice tea, and then adding a half a teaspoon. So you're going to make a cup of the tea, so 8 ounces of the tea, and then add a half a teaspoon of plain ghee to the tea. So you're going to mix that in, either ginger or licorice tea, and then you're going to take a sip of that every 10 to 15 minutes. So you're kind of going to let that coating come into your throat, and then take a sip every 10 to 15 minutes. So that is a home remedy for that dry irritation. So let's look at Pitta allergies. So again, Pitta allergies show up as itchy eyes, headache, loose stool can be part of it too. Again, we look at what's happening in the digestive tract. Hyperacidity, you might be experiencing acid reflux, GERD, things like that. Irritable emotions, and itchy skin. So itchy, and getting any sort of, like redness, bumps, think heat, right? So heat is going to be the issue for Pitta allergies. So we want to work to cool things down. Now that doesn't mean like if it's cold outside, not wearing a sweater or something, but it does mean that you're going to avoid really heating situations. So like not being outside or exercising in the middle of the day in the hot sun. Like anything that's going to add more heat into the constitution, into the physiology, is not going to be helpful here. So we want to think more about doing things that cool down. So cooling activities. So like for exercising, you might go for a walk in the woods where it's shaded instead of for a run on the pavement in the hot sun, right? But you also might eat foods that cool the blood a little bit more, like adding cilantro to your foods, or any greens really can be really helpful. This is where green smoothies might be helpful. Coconut water, things like that. Also, if you tend to have kind of like systemic allergies, so eczema, things like that, that's a Pitta allergy response. And one interesting thing that you can do, in ancient Ayurveda, it was called bloodletting, where they actually used leeches. But what we can do in our modern day world is to donate blood. So if you have high Pitta and have an allergy response, like in that heated way, donating blood can be really helpful for alleviating that heat in the body. And then also the herb burdock can be really great. So making a tea of burdock and drinking that 2 to 3 times a day. So you need to do that pretty consistently. That can be really helpful for those Pitta type allergies. So now let's look at kapha allergies. So again, kapha allergies show up as lots of thick mucus, sinus or lung congestion, sinus headaches, a white coating on the tongue, a low appetite, and lethargic emotions. So this is, I think, more typically what people think of as allergies when they're like, I have such bad allergies. It's like the congestion and the stagnation that's showing up for you. So this is aggravated by moisture. And so doing things that are drying can be really, really helpful. So ginger tea here, but without that addition of ghee, can be really helpful. This can, it really adding ginger to anything, so ginger to your soups to your tea to your food really is helpful. Staying away from dairy, baked goods, and sugar is also really helpful because those things contribute to more stagnation and mucus production. And so for these kapha type allergies, so the traditional formula to get the traditional treatment to get all the congestion out of the body, and this is not something to do at home, okay? This is just so you know, is what's called virechana, or therapeutic vomiting. So it's getting the congestion out of the body, clearing the passages. Not something to do at home. It needs to be therapeutically induced and monitored by an Ayurvedic panchakarmic physician. Not what I do, not what you do. But you can help move things through your body out the other end with Triphala. And Triphala is a formula of 3 fruits that can be used that help clear out the gunk in the digestive tract. Is particularly helpful for kapha. And eating light, clear foods that help things move through. You can also do a ginger steam. So if you boil ginger in a pot of water, take it off the stove while it's still nice and steamy, put a towel over your head and inhale that ginger steam. Now, I know I said that this type of allergy is aggravated by moisture, and steam is moisture. However, with that ginger in there, it brings in that drying and drawing quality that pulls out the congestion and lets it come out into the bowl or the pot. So that can be really nice, doing a ginger steam. Drinking lots of ginger tea. Again, ginger is drying, so ginger tea is really helpful. And also nettles infusion is something that, this was my first big turning point when I was about 24. A friend of mine had me start drinking nettles. She was in midwifery school, and she gave me a mixture of nettles and oat straw to help. I was just getting off of birth control pills, trying to clear out those artificial hormones from my body. She said, drink this, it'll be really great for you. And miraculously, my allergies started dissipating. And I was like, what am I doing differently? Because I didn't know that the nettles could have that effect. But nettles are a natural antihistamine. So they can be helpful in Vata, Pitta, and Kapha allergies. However, they do tend to be drying, so we want to mix them with demulcent herbs as well. So putting in a little licorice root or marshmallow root into the nettles infusion can be really, really helpful. So that tea needs to be had every day. So you're going to have like a cup to 2 cups of nettles infusion every day, and it's best to start it before allergy season kicks in so that you have that already built up, in that natural antihistamine already built up in your system. Now, what's interesting is that, going back to on Google, it says allergies cannot be cured. Okay, and I want to go back to what Ayurveda knows to be true, which is that all of our health and immunity derives from the gut. Okay, so if we're having allergies, we definitely want to treat the allergies. And I just gave you lots of different options to do that. But then we want to look upstream. What is happening in our gut that is creating the imbalance in the first place that's allowing us to have allergies? And this is the deeper work of correcting the digestion so that overall health, whether it's allergies or anything else, is possible. So can you cure allergies? Absolutely you can. Absolutely. Can you do it by continuing to eat and live the exact same way you are right now if you have allergies? Nope. You're going to need to make some changes. So those larger changes are a bigger conversation about living in rhythm with the seasons, with your constitution, etc. And you'll continue to learn more about that. You can also work with me in depth if you're a woman who'd like to join the Vitality Circle. That's what we do for a year, is really dive into how we live in rhythm so that these issues that are stemming from an issue further upstream that Western medicine is just saying, oh, you have allergies, let's throw Band-Aids on it, that those things get corrected. It's all course correction in the gut. So I hope you enjoyed this little talk about allergies. Let me know what questions you have. And I hope that if you are struggling with allergies, that very soon you'll be able to tell a story very similar to mine, that you no longer have allergies. Yippee! Yay. All right, take care, everyone. We'll talk soon.